Gil Man, and we got to say his name right, okay? Because this is one of the monsters that nobody ever really put spec on his name, right? It's Gil Man. It's the
Not
creature,
Gilbert,
not
not the
Gilbert,
fish
not the fish
man.
man, but it's Gil Man. That's his name, okay, everybody? And Gil Man, when Universal created their monster verse, their Unimonsters, um, Gilman was the last installment to to seal and finish up that that universe. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, there's a lot of complexities I feel, and there's a lot of themes, heavy themes that are in all three of these movies, right? Which include Creature from the Black Lagoon, Return to the Black Lagoon, and then A Creature Walks Among Us. Okay. Now, first and foremost, let's kind of look at some of the other monsters, right? Because we have a lot of popular monsters, okay? And like you, what would be one of your favorite Universal monsters?
For sure, Frankenstein and the Bride.
Okay, and why?
Because it's my story with Cupcake.
Okay, and
She don't like him.
she don't like him. However, but Frankenstein also fits your type of guy. He's got
Yes,
that
he's
green
big and
face, and he's
ugly.
big and clunky,
Scary
and all
looking.
that. And he does have his
Yes.
pants creased, I believe.
He
Frankenstein had
does.
creased pants that you like, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at that right there. Okay,
Yes.
so Frankenstein, all right?
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yes.
Okay, he ended up with the lady, right?
I didn't like him.
Yeah, but he still ended up with the lady. I think a
Yes.
lot of us at one point that's where we end up taking our lady to dislike us. But no, think about it. Okay, he ends up with the lady, right? He has a
Yes.
hyena, as they say. Uh, okay, what else? There's Son of Frankenstein,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even Son of Frankenstein got some action in
Yeah.
that movie when the whole castle was burning down and he's over there getting his grind on, right? Um, you know, and then we look at some of the other monsters. A lot of like we have the Invisible Man, we have
Werewolf.
Dracula, we have the werewolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have a good happy ending, right? Like they go through their issues, right? Even the
Yeah.
mummy had a son. There was son of mummy, right?
Yeah.
So and they even got to kick it with Abbott and Costello, right? Now for me, I've always thought this that Gilman had gotten the worst
Got gypped off
of
of
it.
life.
No, he got the worst of it because when we first are introduced to the Gill Man, he is living alone, away from society, as far away from colonization as this creature could possibly be. Right? He goes through this. He gets. They cross him. Let's say right.
Mm.
Like let's say go. So they cross him right, and then he goes through the crossing, and then he gets this forced rehabilitation, and then in the last installment I think is the worst part of it, and the one that hurts me the most is he literally suffers the whitening.
The whitening.
The whitening, he suffers a whitening.
Why do you say that?
Because okay, this is we're gonna get to it, because
I'm
because
in.
that's literally what happens now. Okay, uh, I know we should probably do some of these fun facts. Jack Arnold, uh, he's the one that directed Revenge of the Creature. It's the second one, Revenge of the Creature, and we had Julie Adams in it, but there was also four people that carried the mantle of Gilman. Right, there was one guy who did all the swimming, and there was three other actors that portrayed Gilman throughout the movie. So there was one man who was dressed up, and then there was three other actors that fulfilled the role. So it was Riku Browning was the one who did all the underwater swimming, and he did all of that part throughout the whole movie. All right. Now in each movie there was different actors that had fulfilled it. So there was three different guys. Right. Remember, it's Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Revenge of the Creature, and Creature Walks Among Us. Now in the first one, he this creature has been living in the Amazon pretty much uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Yes, for
Ever.
forever. Okay,
And he's good with it.
and he was good with it. He was fine
At
with
peace,
it.
leave me alone. This is mine.
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
We're good. Right?
Yes.
You know, and he was a tall tale. He was one of those things that people, at least in the Amazon, were well aware of because they saw him. And, you know, I'd imagine he was no different than any sort of like...
La Llorona.
Yeah, like any sort of creature, anything that is folklore, right?
I love La Llorona.
Oh,
that's me.
You know what? That's a whole other one we can get into because I think at 500 years she should already have one of the most powerful set of powers at this point. And we'll get into that one too. We're going to get into that one at one point.
Definitely.
So, in the creature from the Black Lagoon, uninterrupted, man has left them alone for years, right? And I believe, if I recall correctly, it was like someone found, like, let's say he molted. It was like a molted piece. He's an amphibian. Amphibians tend to molt. They get new scales and everything like that, right? So his hand, like, was discovered. Someone made a discovery of his hand. So that's what prompted.
That's what started the whole
Yes.
curiosity in the area that they wanted to come check it out. Who did that big old hand belong to?
Yeah, and we're looking at 150 million years that this guy had been around, and he's living about 200 feet, you know, under the water or whatever, right? So what happens is they make this discovery, and a whole group of scientists just impede in his territory, right?
Go to the marina.
They're there. They go
make themselves at home.
Exactly, right? And
so trespassers.
Yeah, that's what they did. That's what they did, and then they discover that he's there, right?
And then they didn't want none.
Yeah, no, well, look at some of the things that happened to him in the first one.
Yes.
What the one to me, and this is where I start saying some of the big atrocities start to happen, because what happens at one point, in order to kind of capture this creature, they throw heavy narcotics into his ecosystem, into his water, right? Again, undisrupted land, indigenous creature, indigenous man, inhuman man, whatever, who's probably been living,
inhuman man.
You know what I mean? Who's been living on that part of Earth for years.
Yeah.
Okay, uninterrupted.
Yeah, solo.
Not colonized,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then here we go. A bunch of scientists decide, oh, let's go find this creature. Okay. Now, some of the things, when we're thinking back, we're looking at the first creature from the Black Lagoon. What are some of the things that come into your head when you think of that first movie? Some elements that are introduced to this creature. Remember, I do believe he lingered around and he knew that there were people around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he had a whole huge play area for himself. So I know he was well aware of people. So what are some of the things when you think that he starts to see and starts to recognize when man starts invading?
Well, obviously they invaded, and then he checked out the girl real quick, because the whole time that's what he was after.
Exactly. He's after this.
He said.
Yeah. No, essentially that's, and I think that plays in, and I think later on until we get to the movies, I think his attraction to the female form changes in each movie. Because I think in the third one, I think he develops a complete understanding of female. At least what best a monster could understand. Okay. So think about it, right? In the movie, we have this very bright, light-skinned, dark. She's swimming around in her white bathing suit.
And a perfect body, by the way.
And she's there, and that's one of the first things he's gonna see. Okay, so naturally and instinctively, he's like, "What is that?" Okay, so there is this, at least in this first movie, we see that there's this. This uncontrollable desire to follow her.
Yes.
Okay, because again, throughout the three movies, we are never ever shown or indicated in any way that there is a counterpart.
Yeah. No.
For him. You know, there's no bride preacher. There's none of that. There's no
the fish
lady
lady.
Gil Man. None of that. No, none of that. None of that. Right.
No, there isn't.
So that already, I think, kind of compels him in
Yeah.
an instinctual way, right?
Mhm.
But what's happening as all this is going on? They're polluting his environment.
They burn
They
him,
well, they don't do it until later.
but
But
they harass him.
they were harassing him and destroying his place,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And of course, the curiosity, he's gonna hurt somebody. He's gonna hurt some people.
Mhm.
All right, and then he gets left alone. Okay, so they end up taking off, and everything's cool,
Mhm.
right? Everything is cool until we get into Revenge of the Creature. Okay, Revenge of the Creature, when it came out, it had a whole 3D gimmick.
Okay.
So it was a 3D movie.
What do you know? What year that was? In?
Oh, I have to. It
'Cause
was.
the
I
first
think it
one
was
was 54, right?
54. I think it was 54, 55, and maybe 56.
Okay, so they were back to back.
They were essentially back to back with the three because I think Universal. I don't know for sure, but I feel Universal was really trying to
Push it and keep it
push
going.
it out and,
Yeah.
and seal this this universe that they had.
Okay.
So now this is where for me where people start getting worse. Okay.
People are always worse.
They're worse. No, yeah.
God.
So what they do is they go back. They know of his existence. They know that he is there, right? And what do?
Mess with them again.
We mess with him again, and we go back. So Creature from the Black Lagoon. Actually, let me go back because Creature from the Black Lagoon as well was also filmed in 3D, and it was projected by the polarized light method, right? So the audiences had to wear these gray polarizing filter glasses, similar to what we use today, right?
How cool.
And brief 3D fad because the 3D fad in the 50s went from the mid 50s, so mid 53, probably all the way to 54, and some of the audience, it was flat for them, right? So the film ended up having 3D downtown and then smaller theaters, and later on as the years go down, we have this whole other presentation of the movie. So that's 54 and then 55 for Revenge of the Creature. Now they go back, a whole other team goes back, mind you. It's not the same team. And they go back. Now what happens in that one is the ones that go after him have a whole different plan when they capture Gil Man. And in the second one is when we actually are told his name, Gil Man, because that's what they call it. They're calling him Gil Man already. Now, this one sucks because the team that go after him, they are part of this amusement park, like a SeaWorld. It's essentially
I haven't seen the
like a
second
SeaWorld.
or the third.
It was called and I had watched all these movies this whole week as we were getting
Ready.
into this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what their plan is, to capture him and to put him in a closed environment, more of a
Sideshow.
well. Ends up what he ends up doing. That's really what happens. Is that's what he's used for, right? So again, we see Rico Browning as the underwater part. He's the one swimming, and Tom Hennessy is doing the land scenes. And what happens in that one is when they capture him, they now he's in a controlled environment, being chained to this environment, and they're conducting tests on him. Okay, tests such as food, how he's they're as they would with any other animal that you have, right? They're trying to see, how does this monster operate? How does this Gilman operate? What is he made of? So he's just being, that's it. And he's also being showcased as some sort of attraction. Okay?
That's so sad.
So again, one thing we got to understand about Gil Man, and we understand a lot more in the third one, is he he's very responsive and reactive. Okay, so now we've already kind of seen some of the anger or some of the reactionary um, responses that he has because again we went and we destroyed his environment, right? Because yeah, I think in the first one we do kind of burn some of it too, the environment. So now he gets poisoned so they can he gets drugged rather so they can bring him to Miami. So he gets to Florida, right? Because that's where they take him. That's where this harbor thing is. This it's kind of like a SeaWorld. Think of like a SeaWorld, right?
Florida.
So yeah, so he's there in display. He's being poked and prodded, and again, and they make it clear this time because he there's another beautiful woman that's part of this team.
Yeah.
So come on.
Being a man.
Being a man.
He's all over it.
Yeah, all over. And come on,
No self-control.
Again, we're looking in the 50s, so the real.
Animales.
Yeah, but we're looking. Okay, look in his defense, it's 1954.
And they had pointy bras.
And they had pointy bras and very cute outfits. And
very cute.
Beautiful hair and like it was. I think any man in the 50s totally would have been attracted to any of that. Okay.
No Botox.
None of that. Exactly.
No peradas.
None of that. None of that. Probably the most natural that we're
yes.
gonna get. And of course, she was blonde and light this time as well. So again, he doesn't see that in the Amazon if he's seeing other human men and women. That's completely different aesthetic that he would see too. So of course, that's going to be super attractive. His role as the Gil Man. Now, in this particular movie, he had already left the oceanarium. It was the oceanarium that he was in, right? It was actually the Ocean Harbor Oceanarium is where Gil Man went and suffered all of this conditioning and the research that they did on him. So when he leaves, the only place that he can really go to was the Everglades because it's in Florida. That's the closest he can get to any sort of water. So he lives in the Everglades. Okay, so here we go again with another team of scientists that go looking for him. Now, but this one's a lot different, and I think this is where we see we got 10 minutes.
I know,
but we'll have to carry it into something else into the next hour. Anyway, so this is where you see some of the worst of the human condition because there's a gentleman by the name of Barton who was pretty much mentally unstable, and he was an abusive husband to his wife Marcia, right? And there was actually some sort of love triangle going on between Barton's wife and another person that was part of this expedition to go get the Gil Man. Now, what happens with the Gil Man here when we get into the whitening is when they were looking for him, they went to go find him, right? He can't be going back to the water because he can now possibly die, right?
Yeah.
Because he now has no capacity
to live
to
down
do
there.
it.
Yeah.
But they isolate him, they cage him, right? So he went through this whole thing. He's pretty much now he's suffering the whitening, but he's also developing an understanding on the worst of the human condition, okay? Because he's seeing how mentally unstable this doctor is. He's seeing how he's treating his wife. Mm-hmm. The poor woman is in a bad relationship, and then there's this other kind of grimy guy trying to take advantage of it because she's in this ugly relationship.
Of course.
Okay,
Shocking.
so yeah, right. So at the end of it, Barton tells that other guy to leave. There's a scuffle. He kills the dude. Gil Man sees this. But what that Barton does is he tries to frame Gil Man on this thing. And Gil Man's like, nah, we ain't having it. So again, he rages, he smashes stuff.